Hey there, what's up everybody? Welcome to my channel. My name is ARTFX and today I want to make a video about a piece of software that I've been using that is helping me to make my studio sound a lot better than that it actually is. Now you might be noticing something, that it looks a little bit different out here. Look at it, we've got the new computer. Let's roll the intro. The new computer is an absolute beast. It's an i7-7820X. It's an 8-core CPU and it's ridiculously fast. It's being cooled by the Corsair H150i Pro water cooler. It's an all-in-one water cooler. I'm really happy with it. The CPU stays really cool at the moment. I've also got 32GB of Trident Z RAM in it, which is the RGB version, so it lights up really nicely. Now, today I want to talk about a piece of software, and before we're going to get into it, I want to say I'm not affiliated to them. They don't pay me whatsoever. They simply sent me an email, and they said to me, we really think that you would find a big benefit in this piece of software. So, what do you think? Would you want to try it out and just, make a video about it? I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's do it. The piece of software is Sonarworks. Sonarworks Reference 4. Now, this is the actual measuring microphone that comes with Sonarworks 4, which is like I think it's the studio version. Let me check. There's actually 3 different versions. I have the website open right in front of me. You've got the headphone edition, which is 99 euros, and that is used to calibrate your headphones. So it comes with a whole variety of headphone profiles that you can load up, and you can just select the headphone type that you use, and you load up the profile and it will calibrate those headphones for you and make them sound much more flat than what they usually are. And they also have a studio version, which is 249 euros, and the studio version is actually able to calibrate both your headphones but also your monitor speakers. Now, to do the calibration of monitor speakers, you need to create your own profile, because the monitor speakers, you also have to take into account the actual room that you're placing them in. So your room is actually going to change the sound of your monitor speakers, and that's where you need a microphone for, and they actually have their own measuring microphone, and they were kind enough to send me one of those. So here we have the actual measuring microphone. You can see it's kind of like one of these directional microphones, so you just aim it at something and then it just records whatever you aim it at. It's a special microphone designed by Sonarworks, so you cannot use any of your own other microphones. You really have to use the Sonarworks reference microphone. The reason for that is that with the microphone, you also get a calibration profile for the microphone itself. So what Sonarworks does when they ship out the microphones, they actually measure each individual one of their microphones that they create, because every microphone, even though they are made exactly the same, they might not respond exactly the same. They might have slight differences in between each different mic that they make, basically. So they measure the mic, and then they create a profile that they send to you when you buy one of these mics, and you load up that profile so that the software knows exactly which microphone you have. And then you use the software to, send out a whole bunch of sounds from your speakers, and you measure them with this microphone. Now, I've done the calibration earlier this day, so let's get into that. Let's show you the actual calibration. So in the first couple of steps, you simply just set up your audio devices. You have to set up your audio interface and just make sure that the input and the output is routed correctly. Now that'll be different for every audio interface, so I can't really help you with that. Just select whatever input and output you have. So now you can start measuring the room, and what you have to do is you have to take a microphone stand, or you have to handheld the microphone. I started out using a microphone stand, but later on I decided it was much easier to just handheld the microphone. You want to aim it at the center of your big woofer of your monitor speaker. Now, I'm going to input some video right here so you can actually see what I'm doing. I'm aiming it right at the center of the big woofer, which is mostly responsible for the mid frequencies of your speakers. And you then want to press the button to start the measuring. It's going to play a couple of sounds coming from the left speaker and then coming from the right speaker, and it's going to record with the microphone. Now, when you're done, you want to move the microphone to the right speaker and do the same thing. So again, you're going to aim it at the center of the big woofer, and you're going to record whatever comes out of your speaker when you press the button to go into the next stage. When you're done with that, you want to go into the next stage, which is placing the microphone in the position where your chair normally is. Now you want to put the microphone at ear level, and you want to aim it right at the center between the two speakers. So after that, it'll show you a window where you can actually see the dimensions between your speakers and between your ears and the speakers, and it'll actually calculate that for you according to what it has recorded. Now you can fine-tune that if it's a little bit off. If it's too far off, just try it again. You know, just try it again until it is pretty much what it should be. So when you're done with all that, you're now actually ready to start measuring your room, and you can now take the microphone and place it into the listening position, so where your chair is, and press on to the next stage. So now you're gonna see on the screen, you're gonna actually see me doing the calibration. You have to move the microphone around according to what the software is telling you. So you're gonna start all the way into the back left side of your room, and then you're gonna move to the right, then you're gonna move further to the front and back to the left, and you're gonna do that 24 times. Now, when you're done with that, it will be done with the calibration. Now, if you're getting issues along this particular part of the calibration, I was getting some issues where the software would tell me that the microphone was out of the measurement range. I wasn't really sure what was happening, but I found out why. If you have the audio card, the audio interface, set to a too high buffer size, so my buffer size was set at 1024 because I was doing some tests yesterday, and on 1024 samples buffer size, the latency is too large, and then the software of Sonarworks doesn't really work that well. So you want to make sure that your audio interface is set to a small buffer size so that the latency is as small as possible. So when you're done with the measurements, it'll actually create a calibration profile, and this calibration profile is specific to your speakers in your room. Now you can actually start using that calibration profile. Now there's two ways you can use it. There's a system-wide Sonarworks app that applies the calibration profile to any audio coming from your computer. I've been trying to get that to work, but so far I haven't really been able to. Maybe it's because I'm using Voicemeter to route my audio to do video recordings and to do live streams. Maybe that's why it's not really working too well for me. But luckily there's another way of doing it. Now I do think if you just use an audio interface, then the system-wide app will work perfectly fine. It's just because I do this rather weird routing with the audio to get my live streams to work. I think that's just what's throwing the Sonarworks software off, but that's fine, you know, it's not a standard setup that I'm using anyway. But there's luckily another way of applying the calibration, because Sonarworks has also created a VST plugin. Now you can load that VST plugin as the last insert on your master track inside your DAW, and then you can load up the calibration profile. And then it'll just apply that to anything that comes out of your DAW, and the only thing you have to make sure of is that whenever you export something, you have to turn the plugin off. So that's just a brief introduction about Sonarworks reference. I might even do some more videos later on. There's a lot more to it than just this. So when I first got an email of them, I was kind of skeptical because I work in an untreated room. Don't get me wrong, I don't work in a proper music studio. This is an untreated room, it's not acoustically treated, so it's not the best for music production. I didn't really think that changing whatever comes out of my speakers would be a good thing, because the more you change whatever comes out of your speakers, the less it'll actually sound like what your speakers are putting out, right? So I was kind of skeptical when I first got an email of them, but I was also pretty curious, you know, just to try it out and just to see how it works. At first, when you first apply the calibration for the first time, the first thing I thought is, this sounds really weird, and I wasn't really sure if I liked it or not. But the manual of Sonarworks, they specifically tell you when you apply the calibration for the first time to start listening to reference tracks, or at least tracks that you know very well, and you have to know how they sound on different speakers or on different setups. That way you can let your ears adjust to the new calibrated version of the sound, and just do that for, you know, maybe an hour or something like that. Just get used to the new sound, because it'll alter the sound of your speakers. So right now I've been using Sonarworks reference for almost 2 months, and I can really say that it has made my music production a lot better. I was skeptical at first, but now I really like it. The thing is with this, I work in a completely untreated room, like I said earlier, and there are some pretty major issues within my room. For instance, there are certain frequencies that almost completely cancel out inside this room, and it only happens for specific frequencies, and that's a big problem. I can probably fix it by treating this room acoustically, but this room is not set up in a proper way to begin with, so I don't really want to spend that much time into acoustically treating this room, and therefore I thought it was really interesting to see what the software was going to do. So right now I'll show you the actual software, and I'll show you the calibration profile that I have created just now, and I'll show you what difference it makes to the audio. Now, before you're going to say anything in the comments, you gotta be aware that whatever the software is going to do to the audio is most likely going to sound a little bit weird to you guys, because you are listening to that same thing on a completely different setup. You're listening to it on different speakers and in a different room. Maybe you're listening to it on headphones. So whatever the calibration is going to do is not going to apply to your setup. It's only going to apply to my personal setup, to my own room, and to my own speakers. That being said, you can still hear how much of a difference it makes. And since my room is very poorly acoustically treated, like there is no acoustic treatment, and I'm not even set up symmetrically in the room, I'm kind of tucked away in a corner just because of space issues, you know. I don't have the space to position myself symmetrically in the room, so you gotta work with what you have. And therefore I thought it was really interesting to see what the software was going to do. So here we are in Ableton Live, and I have Sonarworks Reference 4 loaded up as the last insert on my master track. So everything I'm playing is going to run through this plugin. I have a little project open here. This is the project that we've been working on in the last live stream that I did. I'm just going to play a little part of it, and then we're actually going to look into the calibration that is going to be applied by Sonarworks. So here we go. So you get it. That's what it sounds like right now. Now, when you open up Sonarworks Reference, right now we are, if you look at the top right here, you can see we are in the headphone calibration mode. So right now you are in the mode where you should calibrate your headphones with. So I can click here, right where it says calibration profile, and that brings up this box. And I can select the actual headphone brand and type that I have. So I own the AKG K240 Mark II. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to open that. Now, I'm going to turn the calibration on, and here we can see, so if you look at it, the dark blue color here, which is this line, that is the actual frequency response of the headphones. The purple line, or let me see, the red line here, this one, I can turn that on, I think, yeah. So the red line, this red line is the target, so that's what it's going to try and achieve. Now, we can set the target using these settings right here. So currently it's set to flat. We can also go to custom, which we can customize with this right here. So we can give it a bass boost, and we can tilt it if we want. or just give it a bass boost like that. So we can really, you know, set something like that, or we can just click set optimum. I usually just keep it on flat. We can also do predefined, and here you can select a variety of different types of environments that you would maybe want to place your sounds in. Now there's also the simulate section where you can actually, well, simulate a certain type of speaker. So Japanese wide cone studio monitors. I think this actually looks like Yamaha speakers, to be quite honest. And the description kind of like makes me think they mean the Yamaha speakers as well. There's also the popular hi-fi headphone model simulation, and when you read that, it's a simulation by an iconic Brooklyn-based hi-fi headphone producer. I think they're talking about the Beats headphones, but I mean, they don't say it, but I do think that's what they're going after. Now, I usually just stay in the calibrate section and keep it on flat, and you can see that red line, that's what we're trying to achieve. Now, I'm going to turn the target line off, and now I want you to look at just the purple line here. That's the after. So that's what the calibration is actually doing. So after the calibration, that's what we're getting. And that's much closer to a flat frequency response if you compare it to what it used to be. Now, I can also show you the correction. And you can see that it's actually doing the opposite of what my frequency curve of my headphones is doing. So it's making up for these peaks and these valleys in the frequency distribution of my headphones. So the frequency response of my headphones. Now, let me play you the same section without the calibration, and then I'm going to turn the calibration on. Now this might sound a little weird to you because you are probably not listening on these headphones. So this will sound different on every kind of system, and it actually makes my AKG K240s sound much better and much, well, not necessarily better, they sound flatter, and that to me is better. So I'm going to play you the same section, and then I'm going to turn the calibration on. There we go. Now that might sound a little bit weird to you, and for me it actually did when I first tried this out. The more I started using it though, after a while when I switched back to the uncalibrated version, that one sounded much worse than the actual calibrated version. So that's quite interesting. Now you also have a dry-wet control, so you can, if you want, blend in a lower amount of dry-wet so you get less of the actual calibration. That's pretty handy. I think that's pretty nice to have. Then you also have this advanced section. This is where you can set the actual latency of the plugin. So right now we are at 0 latency, which is pretty much what I would use when I'm using this in a project of a track which I'm working on. But you can also switch this to optimum, which, if you look at the bottom left, introduces a little bit of latency. It's not that bad. It's still pretty usable in this setting. Then when you go to linear phase, you can see it definitely increases the amount of latency, but it's still definitely a good setting to use, and it's the most accurate setting, because if we look at the let me just turn a few things off here. If we look at the target or the after, so that's after the calibration, this line is pretty much flat, except for like really in the sub lows. I mean, that's like from 0 to 10, 20 hertz, so that's not even that important. And the same thing goes on here, probably about 18,000 hertz to 20,000. You know, there's a slight roll off, but that's good. That's not that bad. If we switch to optimum, you can see that the actual curve that we're getting has changed. So we're not getting that accurate of a curve when we have a little bit less latency. And if we switch to the 0 latency, it kind of looks better, if you ask me. But there are a little bit more oscillations going on in the frequency curve. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but, you know, I find the zero latency the best option for me to get at least, well, to keep the most amount of processing power free for any music production stuff that I want to do. So we can also switch to the studio monitor section, and that's what we can do right here. So here we have the same section again. I can turn it on, and here you can see I've loaded up the calibration profile that I made with the measurements that I did earlier in the video. And you can see the frequency curve. Now, I'm going to turn a few things off again. And right now you can actually see the frequency curve of the left and right channel. So the dark blue line is the left channel. And then we have the lighter blue line, which is the right channel. Now you can actually see that we have a huge spike going on around 150 to 200 hertz right here in the left speaker. But we actually have a dip in the same section, well, roughly the same section, around 200 hertz in the right speaker. So that means that the 200 hertz area in my room is definitely a problem area. Now we can see the same thing going on here in the low end. There's definitely something going on there as well. It also seems to be like my right speaker is perceived a little bit louder because of my room. Because overall, the light blue line is a little bit louder than the other line, especially here in the high frequencies. You can definitely clearly see it. So that's just a result of my room, I guess. And the calibration will make up for that. Now, I was pretty skeptical, like I said earlier, but let's just try it out. I'm going to turn the calibration off again. And again, this will only apply to my setup. So it might, again, sound weird for you, but at least you can see what it does and how much of a change it actually makes. So I'm going to play this to you, and then I'm going to turn the calibration on. So, to me, it made the bass frequency sound a lot more tight and a lot more upfront. So I'm working on pretty small monitor speakers. I mean, I don't really have much space for bigger monitors. I would love to have them, but I don't really have the money to get another set of monitor speakers, at least not right now, because I just got the new computer. Now, it actually makes these small monitors sound much better, because without them, I usually use my headphones to judge the sub bass, because the headphones, the AKG headphones, are just much better at that particular job, especially in this room. Now, with the calibration applied, these monitors actually sound much flatter, and I can actually clearly hear the sub bass much better than I actually was able to hear it without the calibration. Over the last few months, I've definitely been using this, and I can hear that just the balance of the tracks that I'm working on right now, if I play those tracks back at different setups, like my mobile phone or my mobile phone's headphones, my earbuds, the track sounds a lot more balanced than the things I was making before I started using Sonarworks reference. So that kind of makes me think that this software is indeed helping me out, and it is indeed making my music sound more balanced. Even though I was skeptical at first, yes, I do like it, and I actually like it a lot, and I'm definitely going to be using this from now on, because it just makes it a lot easier to get a good mix down in this room. Now, the only thing I have to remember, when I export something, I have to turn this plugin off, so that it doesn't apply any calibration or any volume changes, because the plugin does alter the gain a little bit. So if you want to export something, just be sure to turn the plugin off and then do your export or your bounce or whatever you want to do. Same thing counts for if you want to resample stuff internally inside Ableton Live. You definitely want to turn the plugin off, otherwise it's going to capture that processing in the file as well. that is all solved if you will use the system-wide app of Sonarworks, because then the calibration is applied outside of Ableton Live. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong though, but I think that then you could actually be able to just export something from Ableton Live or internally resample something inside Ableton Live without having the calibration applied to that particular file. Now, if you want to try this out, go to the Sonarworks website and download the trial version and just try it for yourself and see if you like it. If you like this video, I hope you did, because I'm trying to put a lot more time and effort into these videos. I actually wanted to do this video a lot earlier, a lot sooner, but I also wanted to get the new computer, and I think it actually made for a really nice backdrop in this video. So, I hope you liked this video, and if you did, then please subscribe to this channel, and if you do, please click the little notification icon so that you get notified as soon as I upload a video on my channel, or when I start doing a live stream, which is actually every Friday at 8 PM Central European Time. Now, I want to give a huge thanks to Sonarworks for giving me this product, because I definitely wanted to try it out and I really like it, so big up for that. And everybody, please check out Sonarworks because they're great. And I hope to see you back soon in another video. Peace!